So guys, welcome back to the Black and Raww Podcast. I'm your host, Tino Kuna Tondarai Gunzaba, and I ain't gonna repeat that. Here's a podcast that's creating the dialogue and the space for black men to be their most authentic selves. Now, before I tell you about my guest today, guys, right? Let me just say something. Have you seen on the thumbnail? Have you seen anywhere? If you're listening to this episode, 50? Have you seen the number 50? 50? Because we got 50 episodes! 50 episodes! Yes! Didn't want to get bleeped out by the YouTube algorithm on that one. But yeah, 50 episodes of the Black and Raww Podcast. Thank you. I thank everyone. Everyone that's listening, everyone that engages, everyone that helps me with ideas for the podcast, for all the guests that come out and that are like, let me come talk to you. I want to come into your podcast. Yes, thank you to all of you guys. Honestly, yes. So yeah, 50 episodes, no small feat. And I thank you guys. I thank you, honestly. I couldn't have done it without you guys. Don't know whether it's stubborn consistency that's kept me going. But yeah, a little bit of that. But no, thank you. 50 episodes. I'm quite happy, as you can tell. I'm giddy like a little child that's in a candy store. To be fair, not even a child. If I go into a candy store, I'm giddy myself. Take me to a dessert place now. Oh! I can tell I like desserts. But either way, 50 episodes. 50. So no, thank you very much, guys. Thank you. 50 episodes. I'm going to keep on going. Soon we're going to get to 100. Then 150. Then 200. Then 250. And then we just don't keep going. Keep chucking. Right. But yeah, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to what Black and Raww has in the next few years and next few months. So yeah, 50 episodes. Thank you! Yes! Honestly, didn't think I'd be this excited for 50 episodes. Just wait till we get to 100. Hi! Anyway, my guest today, and I think J Haleem, I've already spoiled his name, that's fine. It's in the thumbnail anyway. I think J Haleem actually brought it for this 50 episode. He didn't know he was going to be my 50th episode. I didn't know he was going to be my 50th episode. But I think he brought it. And so let me tell you a little bit about Jay, and you're going to actually find out more about J Haleem in a bit. But just think about this, right? Think about this. If you thought of if I described to you what happened to Jay, right? And then you see where he is now, you'd be thinking, what? How the hell is that possible? You know, my guy was living in a 3-bedroom apartment with his grandmother as a sole carer for 15 other people. His parents were strung out on crack cocaine and heroin and meth and all those things. He didn't really have a primary caregiver. His grandmother tried, you know? One person to 15, that's a lot. That's a lot for a grandmother to deal with. So he was out in the street and he had to hustle. He's a very determined, driven guy. And so that was there from his early childhood. So he had to go out and deal drugs. He had to make money for himself. He had to feed himself, you know? He had to go and do things for himself as a young child. And he also has 2 felony charges to his name as well. And so for J Haleem to now be working with WNBA stars, you know, taking photos for the NFL, for the 69ers? No, I'm getting my teams confused. Either way, for the Philadelphia team, the NFL Philadelphia team. The 79ers. And yeah, and he's worked with governments, he's worked with the US government in helping minority contractors and getting big contracts with the government. And he's done a lot. And he's an author of not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 books. Number 4. 4 books. So yeah, J Haleem, he's been around and he's doing really well for himself. And I'm happy to see that. And in this episode, you find out more about his childhood. You'll find out more about how he's got to where he is. And I'm going to give you guys a little snippet. Of what you got to look forward to in this episode. So bear with me just a second.
It was hard. You know, you didn't feel different because it was multiple families in the same neighborhood going through the same thing. So the majority of adults in my household were strung out on crack cocaine or heroin or both. And my mom was included in that. And so just being in the space by the time I got to high school where, you didn't know when you were going to eat. I mean, my grandmother did a good job of trying to feed everybody, but she had 15 people in a 3-bedroom apartment.
Wow. How?
So,
Just how does it even work?
exactly, right? So, I had a place to sleep, which was the couch. So just imagine that everybody's sitting there, and I always say they're farting in the couch all day long, but that's why I got to sleep later. And so, and there was no money. And so I would see the people on the corner who were making money. And so I tried to do the right thing at first. I went to a car wash, tried to work there. Well, I did work there, but it was owned by a local drug dealer. And that was the hangout for the biggest drug dealers. So, I was more fascinated with that. Oh man, when you get to a certain age, man, I'm in my 40s now, my early 40s. You start getting all that emotion that they tell us as men to hold in, that's gonna start coming out.
It's good.
So I don't know if you got to that point yet, but literally, once we took 9 months of working on this book, and I talked about things I never talked about before. I let it all go.
Mm.
I finally let it all go. I brought in a coach, a life coach, and she was helping me with clearing up some things in my past. And I was talking and addressing things with individuals who I felt that wronged me. Because I not having a family and not having that mother figure, I was taken advantage of, I felt, by women, not like I was dating, but like pseudo mother figures.
Mm.
And so I reached out to them, and we've had those conversations, and I was able to grow from that. And it just me being willing to tell my story. I was always told to tell my story. I just wouldn't. I just nobody want to hear that. But I realized it wasn't for them. It was for me.
Yeah.
It was for me. The more I put in these books, the easier it feels to me. It's like more and more weight is lifted off. I get it out. And so writing I Won't Starve, working with that process, oh man, it was just like so many people called, people I've done business with. It was so funny, like certain people would hit me. I didn't know you were a felon. I didn't know you went through that. Because you got to understand, as a photographer, my resume said I've worked with the U.S. military. I worked with Save the Children Foundation. I've worked with the NFL, the WNBA. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've worked with multiple entities that I've worked with the government, the airports, everywhere. Nobody ever asked me about my background.
So, now that you've seen what you've got to look forward to in this episode, I really hope you guys do enjoy it. I enjoyed talking to J Haleem, and I think you guys are going to get so much nuggets of wisdom and knowledge out of this, and inspiration too. So, thank you very much for future listening. And here is my episode with J Haleem Washington. So, J Haleem, welcome to the Black and Raww Podcast. It's really good to have you on.
Thank you, brother.
That's all right. How's your day been? How things going for you?
Bad weather in Las Vegas. So you're coming over to Vegas, just know we had an actual real winter this year.
Oh wow. Mm-hmm. Why is it usually just quite warm in Vegas? Like,
oh yeah, this is in the Las Vegas in the middle of the desert, so yeah, it gets real hot. It snowed, it rained, it's raining and snowing as we speak.
Mad. No, that's all right. That's all right. So my audience would have got to know a bit about you, but then obviously this is what the episode is for them to get to know you even more. So when we had a chat before, you were telling me a bit about your childhood and growing up in the crack era and things like that. So I just wanted to know from you, like, what was growing up like for you, like especially during that period of time as well.
Well, as a kid, you don't really know what when you're in the era.
Yeah.
And that, you see the movies and people are, writing stories about it. And you start to really reflect on what you were dealing with. So again, I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, which is literally 15 minutes from New York City. And it was hard. You didn't feel different because it was multiple families in the same neighborhood going through the same thing. So The majority of adults in my household were strung out on crack cocaine or heroin or both. My mom was included in that. And so just being in a space by the time I got to high school where, you didn't know when you were going to eat. I mean, my grandmother did a good job of trying to feed everybody, but she had 15 people in a 3-bedroom apartment.
Wow. How? How does it even work?
Exactly, right? So, I had a place to sleep, which was the couch. So just imagine that everybody's sitting there, and I always say they're farting into the couch all day long, but that's why I got to sleep later. And so, and there was no money. And so I would see the people on the corner who were making money. And so I tried to do the right thing at first. I went to a car wash, tried to work there. Well, I did work there, but it was owned by a local drug dealer. And that was the hangout for the biggest drug dealers. So, I was more fascinated with that. And it was, easily accessible. So I still was a good kid. I went to school, played basketball. But when I got out of school, I was on the corner making money. So it just, there's just a lot of negativity and a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of all of that stuff going on. And again, like now, looking back at it, it's kind of crazy, man, because that era where people don't know, you got people I see now on Facebook, it was 20 plus years ago, but now they're clean. They're not, that I was selling drugs to, and they were older people, now they're clean. Or, people were selling drugs to each other's family members. And it was just horrible, but at the same time, it was what we were faced with.
Yeah.
What we were faced with at that time. So it was a tough time.
Yeah, no, that does sound like a tough time. And I think it's a testament to sort of how far you've came, to the fact that we'll talk about all the stuff that you're doing now later on. But it's a testament, because that's not an easy upbringing. That's not an easy environment to be brought up in. As you're saying, people farting into the couch that you're sleeping on, like it's not an environment sort of where you'd want your child to thrive. When we talk about the crack era, is that when, because there's a show called Snowfall, I don't know if you've heard of it, with Damon Idris. Yeah. Very good show if anybody that wants to watch it. But basically that the CIA were drug dealers. They'll bring crack into the hood to pay for the Vietnam War and fight communism. And it's kind of messed up when you think about it, that a government sort of was like, no, let's peddle drugs into a community so we can make money to fight a war, which I don't know much about the Vietnam War, but I don't think it was really a just for or right war either. So it's crazy what governments do, isn't it?
The Snowfall era was in the 80s, and that was Vietnam was over at that point. They were dealing with the stuff that's going on in South America.
So, communism in Americas, isn't
it? Yeah, and the Noriegas and those individuals and things like that. And they couldn't compare to the amount of money. But it was just the bricklaying for what America does now, So one of the biggest exports of the American government is firearms. And so you see in there as well, they were dealing with firearms. They were getting a lot of firearms and things of that nature. Now, they're supplying Ukraine with firearms. You know what I mean? So it's you just learn what was going on. But as a kid growing up in the hood, you don't know nothing about that type of stuff. You just like, I want to make money. Again, I wasn't the type of person to hurt somebody or nothing like that. I was like, hey, I still went to school. I graduated high school on time, went to college. It was just the way I decided to make money, but that was what I saw. When I got a chance to go away and saw other things, I started doing those things. But you can't turn it off, immediately. So I became a felon in college because of that, and it's more horrific story. Some people didn't make it to college. Some people got killed. I was shot at 14, so.
Oh, wow.
Easily been me not being here, and I know I have people that's not here, and so it could have went any kind of way. But the fallout, it's acceptable fallout as far as the government is concerned. It's acceptable fallout for the means to the end that their desired end is acceptable fallout.
Yeah, it also just shows you sort of their attitudes towards uh, Black people in the States and sort of how they feel about us, or how they feel about you guys. But what was that like, being shot at 14? Like, how did that impact you? Like, have you ever thought about that? Did you ever have to process that afterwards? I mean, I'm sure you did in some
Yeah,
way,
all
but
the time. Even now, I mean, my daughter's 14. So one thing I do rejoice in this fact that my daughter's never been, she's never, I was, I'll paint the picture for you. So I'm outside hustling and I'm 3 blocks away from my house at 14 after midnight. A kid shouldn't be outside 3 blocks away from their house after midnight. But if my parents were around or not strung out on drugs, then that probably wouldn't have been the case. So I'm grateful that my daughter will be 15 in a couple months and she's never even been outside past midnight unless we were driving somewhere long distance, and more likely she's in the car asleep.
Yeah.
Until we got to get to. So it's a blessing to be able to bring the next generation up and do better than what I'm able to do better for my kids than what was done for me. And that's all that counts. That's the number one thing that counts. But yeah, I had to process that when it happened. You know, I played basketball, so that's all everybody was thinking. Well, can I still play basketball? I got on point at that point. I was smoking and drinking. I stopped smoking. I mean, I'm a social drinker. But yeah, I didn't smoke. I'm not a smoker now. Never after that, I was like, I'm good on that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and I mean, being an athlete all through high school, I'm like, I don't want nobody harassing me about if I got to take a urine sample and all that other stuff like that. So it was easy for me to say I'm good on smoke. And yeah, so it was a lot. I paid attention. I was not, slipping anymore because I was slipping. I was drunk. I was high, and guys they got the drop on me. You know what I'm saying? But I paid attention a lot more. I was a lot more careful. But sometimes it still don't matter. But I know for me, I always had that heightened sense ever since then.
Yeah, so it's left like it's sort of, as I understand, like it sort of, I guess, kicked you into gear a little bit to be like, actually, let me not sort of do some of the let me not do the behaviors that maybe not got me here, but were a consequence of everything happening around me. What don't people understand about like youth criminality, about kids that end up dealing or getting into drugs and alcohol? Like what are sort of misconceptions?
Oh wow, I love that question. Oh man, so again, it's about influence. It's all about influence because they are laws that say that you can't drink. You can't go and readily access, drugs. However, when you're not being a parent to your children, they're going to be looking for that love somewhere else. And a lot of time they find it in gangs. They find it on the street. Where I came from, it wasn't my day, in my era, we didn't have gangs. But of course, you guys see the gangs on Snowfall and all that other stuff on the West Coast where I live now. It wasn't on the East Coast when I was growing up, but we still had the neighborhoods. And you want to be one of the guys. You want to be a part of it, and that's the way they show love. It wasn't always negative because those are the people who want to die with you. And I've seen it. They died trying to protect you or protect themselves, or you guys going fighting together. We fed each other. We did everything together, and when you go into the churches or you got parents and things like that, they're not doing that. And so these kids are gravitating to the love, and they're going to take it from wherever they get it from. And if the hood only going to show you love the way the hood know how to show you love. So if you ask a hood dude who hustling for $1,000, they're going to give you a pack to sell. They're going to give you a package of drugs to sell to get that $1,000, where your parents might give you $1,000. So it's still giving you the money, but at the end of the day, that's how they operate. So I always talk about protection by prevention. So you prevent your babies from happen to be in that space or from being in that space, so they don't even have that. We do what we have access to. I don't give my kids access to that type of situation. Now, they go to school and they can find some things, but when they do step out of line, you got to meet that with the proper resistance. And I didn't have any resistance, and a lot of kids that grew up with me didn't have resistance. You know, I didn't have nobody going to the school for me if I got in trouble. You know, I got suspended. I even paying crackheads to take me back to school. You know what I'm saying? The sign me into school.
Mm.
So these are misconceptions of what's going on at that time.
Yeah, I think an important thing you said there as well is that they go and find the love somewhere else, isn't it? Like if you're, and I think during COVID as well, we also realized how much we needed people and relied on people and like physical touch and just engaging with others. And like if you're a child and you're not receiving that from your primary caregiver, and I know there's so much research out there that shows like what happens when you don't receive that sort of love from your primary caregiver, or even like anyone else that could be a positive figure in your life, an aunt, an uncle. You know, there's stories where people are like, yeah, my parents weren't there for me, but my grandma really was, and she sort of kept me straight, or my uncle took me in under his wing. If it's a responsible adult that's got your best interests at heart, then it sort of negates your primary caregiver not giving you love. But if there's no one else, then yeah, it makes sense that you go out and seek what you see around you, you know, and if you're struggling for money and you see a dude that's driving in the Benz and that's got nice watch and everything else and there's got women around him, as a kid you're like, oh damn, that looks cool, like what do they do? And then you find that love, you find that community, you find that group. So yeah, I think there are a lot of misconceptions in terms of when people think about young people that deal drugs or that are involved in crime. That's like, oh, they're just thugs, they're just this, just that. But it's just like the kid's looking for a place to belong, isn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I wasn't a gangster by any means of stretch of the imagination. You know, I was good at making money. You know, I was hungry. You know, I wanted to eat. I wanted to make some money. And again, the guys in the neighborhood was like, "Hey, here you go. Here's your opportunity to make some money." And I did that. You know, but these are the same guys who come to my basketball games. Though. You know what I'm saying? To support me and to make sure, you know, I went to school, but they knew I had to make money because every adult that my grandmother, all my grandmother children except for one, which was in the military, so he wasn't around, strung out on drugs.
Mm.
So all the adults in my house are strung out on drugs. So they know what time it is. And me being an overachiever, me going to school, staying in school, I'm staying after school for basketball practice. When I come home, the food is gone. You know,
Yeah.
literally, like, everybody already ate, and they're not saving no plate for me. So now what? You know what I'm saying? My grandmother told me, and I understood because this is a remarkable thing about my grandmother was that I'm the oldest grandchild. And she said, you can stay here, but there's nothing I can do for you because not only did she take full custody of me, she took full custody of 9 other grandchildren.
Mm.
So she raised 8 of her own children. Now she's raising 10 more kids. And I'm the oldest. So it's like, you can't get no new Jordans because I got to get whatever kind of shoes I can get for the rest of these little kids. You know, so figure it out. And that's what I did.
Yeah, no, definitely. So you've talked a bit about your early childhood and sort of what was happening for you in that time. And then you said that you graduated from college and you said you also had a felony. I can't even speak today. A felony charge. Oh, why can't I say the word felony? Felony charge? I think it's just we don't
Yep.
use felony. um, so
Big old
how did you even adjust with, because I know when you do have that charge on you, when you have that label on you, it's very hard to just exist in society.
You got that right. So the funny thing was, you know, again, through my matriculation through high school, I went to what we call the youth house, or on the West Coast they call it YA, you know, but went to the juvenile justice a couple times. But right before I graduated high school, I got arrested. I had just turned 18. I got arrested. That was my first charge as an adult. Now in the States, that first offense you can get expunged.
Mm.
So I spent my first year in college coming back and forth to New Jersey, which is about a 11, 12-hour ride from South Carolina. I
Wow.
went to college, going back and forth every month, programs, things of that nature. Got it expunged. The very next year, I got a felony charge in South Carolina. So now I'm fighting this case, facing 10 years in prison the whole time I'm in college. And when I graduate on the dean's list, but I got this felony charge. Now I beat it, I guess, because I didn't go to prison, but I still got this charge on me. And so I went and applied for jobs, got hired, and they let me go. Or they rescinded the offer because of my background. So I went and used the skill set that I had from being in the street and became an entrepreneur full time. I wasn't going to give up, but I just knew that wasn't the path because I got tired of the rejection. That's a different level of rejection in entrepreneurship. And I put in my book, you learn how to take no's all the time, but that's a different no. That's a different no because you went to school all these years, you earned that. That's yours. That's my job. I supposed to have that job. I got $60,000 of student loans. I need that job. This is what we did all this training in school for this job. So I did all of this and I can't get the thing I did it for. And it sucked. So I was like, I don't want that rejection. And so I went and matriculated through business. It definitely wasn't easy. Nobody, even if you don't have a felony, is not easy, but not having a job, the fallback, and then more importantly, what people think about you outside. You got family members or friends or whatever, they keep you at arm's length because you a felon. You know what I'm saying? And none of my felonies, I ain't shoot nobody, I ain't kill nobody, nothing like that. Everything I was doing was about getting money. You know what I mean? And as I figured out better ways to get money, more legal ways to get money, I did that. But I was a kid and I did what I did as a child.
Yeah. No, definitely. It's it's interesting because I know, like, as you were saying, you got one felony charge expunged and then you just got another one. And that must have felt quite gutting as well to be like, I got rid of this one and then now another one has come onto me. Yeah, I don't know. Were you gonna say something? I don't.
Oh no, I didn't feel like that because I didn't understand the magnitude of it. Like this is why school is so amazing, because I got my expungement, I got into this program. I didn't even have that type of money. I had some money at that time. I had more when I was in college running the thing, but I got caught slipping at a time because all my money was wrapped into what I got jammed up with. But I had a cousin who had he worked at a high school and he was sending a bunch of kids to a college. So he sprung into action for me real fast. He got me accepted into this college. He started doing all this stuff, this legwork. And so he was able to present to the judge that I'm going to college. I'm going to be a better kid. It's my first time. And that was that. So you get the smack on the wrist. So that's not good enough. You can actually get your ass whipped. You just got a little smack on the wrist. So now it was time for me to actually get it because now I'm in South Carolina. I don't know nobody. I'm meeting people in college. A couple people that I went to my same school came down there, but I'm meeting new people and I'm hungry. Again, it's the same situation. I'm hungry. I don't have any money like that. I'm trying to figure it out. So you apply to trade. You apply to trade. You do what you know best.
Yeah.
And I got jammed up again. And so this time I've seen better. I'm around other people from different walks of life who got parents who's helping them out, people who got jobs, different things. But I'm just trying to get past this point so I can live that type of lifestyle. But it just followed me all the way up until 2021 when I actually got pardoned from the state of South Carolina. But it was a long road. But yeah, I didn't feel down on myself. I didn't know enough to feel down on myself until when I got out of college, that's when I really felt down on myself. Because I'm like, I really put in the work to get out of school. I was doing my thing. And now I can't even get a job, and I went through all of this stuff. So
yeah. No, interesting. And so you mentioned that because you were getting so many rejections, because you were getting so many no's, and you're saying that the no is quite different because of all the hard work that you've done towards it. And there's also stigma behind those no's, isn't it? It's like, oh no, you've got this label on you that this could mean anything, but it's viewed negatively, but no one ever takes into account what you've been through and maybe what's happened to you before that could have led to that.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. But more importantly for me, I was hired at these jobs. So it means I was qualified.
Mm.
You know, the process would be send a resume, they interview me. Oh, we like him. Offer me the job. Here's an offer letter. We're going to offer you this job at this salary, sign on the dotted line, everything like that. Call up a week later. Hey, this is where we need you to go. We need to give a urine sample and need to do your background. Start working this time. I'm hired. And then when the background come back, no. So it's one thing if they cut me off in the beginning, but I had 3 different jobs that happened like that back to back where I was hired. And that was crazy, man. That was just like, oh man, that's the heartbreaker.
Yeah, that's what
you never had.
No, yeah, that's worse. At least if you get told a no before, then you're just like, oh, okay, that's all right. But then getting through to all of that, they like you as a person. Like they've met you. They're like, this is someone who can come onto our work. But then you then get that no. So you decided you pivoted and decided was like, nah, I've had enough of this. I'm gonna go and be an entrepreneur. So what was that journey like? How was the start of your journey in terms of being an entrepreneur?
Funny. Well, if I'm being completely transparent, I was hustling still, because I needed the money and I need to pay for lawyers and all that other stuff like that to stay out of prison. And then I still owed an enormous amount of money to the state of South Carolina. So I had got a cleaning business. That was my first business, but it was more like, oh, got something legal going on. But then when I decided I wasn't going to really, once I got done with my case, I decided I was really going to leave the streets alone, and I did. And so I said, all right, I got to really do this cleaning business. And I was like, oh God, I signed up to clean people's houses. And I did it a couple times, but I had my homeboy who would help out. He was very good at that type of stuff, doing cleaning and fixing stuff around houses, stuff like that. But now it's just me and, my fiance. She was helping out a little bit, and, I was trying to figure it out. And I'm like, all right. And that sucked, but I'm learning the business.
Yeah.
And
gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, I ended up getting good at it, and the business started growing. And then I ended up I was about to get married. My fiance's pastor of her church had a cleaning business back in Maryland, in the DC area where she's from. And so we would get married up there, and he had offered me a job running $1 million contract that he had.
Wow.
So it was kind of crazy because I told him, I said, hey man, I got a felony. He said, did you kill anybody? I said, no. He said, well, you good. And that was my gladiator school. I was 24 years old. I go up there and he tells me to run this $1 million contract for a 300,000 square foot church.
Wow.
And I haven't the slightest idea about commercial cleaning, but I learned on the job. I just knew, I knew what I needed to know about people. And it took me a few months to get my feet up underneath me, but we did. And that 1 year contract, $1 million, we did it. He re-signed the next year for 3 years and got a 12% increase. And so he was putting the business up to sell because he's making his money on it. And I got a 6-figure contract with Antella Loft, the Antella women's stores here. And we went our separate ways amicably, but no beef or nothing like that. It was just, he made a bunch of money off the deal. He was able to sell his company, and I had got all this training I needed to run a commercial business. And I got a contract, and I went my way. And with his support and his salute, and it was great. And I was off to the races from that point.
Yeah, humble beginnings. And I guess you always have to sort of take the opportunities as they come, isn't it? Someone, and it was good of that pastor to at least be like, well, you haven't murdered anybody, so that's an okay benchmark. But I guess he knew you as well. He knew your character, and he was like, this label that's on you, it doesn't matter. I know you're a good guy. I know you can work hard, and you're blessed with an opportunity that you took.
Sad part about it is, it was people that knew me better than him that wouldn't give me that shot, And so it is a blessing for him to that was like nothing but God, because and another thing is, I tell people all the time, be your integrity, because I told him, he didn't ask me. And he probably wouldn't have asked me. He just said, hey, this is what I want you to do. Because I spoke with him when I was starting my cleaning business, because my fiance was saying, hey, you know, this is what he do. He was willing to talk to me. And so he asked me how it was going. And I actually went from not being able to clean anything to having houses weekly, the same houses that I'm cleaning. I even dabbled a little bit with the commercial part. I had a tire shop, well, like a string of tire shops in South Carolina. It was called Tire Kingdom at the time. I forgot what they call it now. So, you know, I was moving up. And so he trusted me to take this on. And later on, he told me, he said, I wasn't worried about you learning to work. I just understood that you knew how to deal with people and you were new. I didn't want to deal with anybody that was local. And I was just new coming from South Carolina, coming to DC area. So he wanted to do something different. And it paid off for all of us. You know, I learned a lot in that process. Anything that has anything to do with commercial cleaning, we had to deal with, came to that 300,000 square foot church. So even with the construction piece, they were still doing construction in certain places, working with marble. They had commercial conventional kitchens. We had to deal with that. You know, it was a 24-hour contract, you know, and so anything that you think of, you had to know, you know, you was going to deal with it. So that was great training ground for me. School couldn't have trained me better than having that year experience.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's a lot of stuff that we don't learn in school that actually would benefit us in real life. Even here in the UK, there's like I had a conversation with someone the other day. It wasn't even the other day, it was a while ago, but we talked about the education system and was saying that it doesn't really prepare you for life, or it prepares you maybe just to be in a corporate space and take orders, and it doesn't really give you the skills to, I think, use your initiative and use your drive. And but then I don't know, some people may say that school shouldn't have to teach you that, but I don't know, I think if we want productive members of society, shouldn't we be?
I think that is too much school. I think that school is good, but it's too much. You know, I think that high schoolers should go straight to college. I think you should have primary school, then college. High school is a waste of time.
You think so?
No, I mean, it really is, because your first year of college, you're reviewing stuff in high school. And so you can just go straight to college. And you have the capacity to learn the things that you're learning. And college needs to be more focused on, you know, what it is that you're majoring in, as opposed to just certain curriculum. So if you're thinking about, like for me, I have a business degree, and I did use my business degree once I started my own business, you know, because production management was a class that I took. Well, that's talking about your raw materials. That's talking about how to manage your raw materials. So you are taught how to run a business. I have taught in business, you get a degree in business, you go through business law, you go through business statistics, you go through investment management, you go through HR class. So it's so many, you go through business policy, like it's so many classes that you take that you use, accounting, marketing. It's just not the way it's taught. It's so broad, because it's like, okay, we don't know what job you're going to do.
Yeah.
And so as opposed to making sure that when that person comes out, they're actually ready to go on to it, it's actually better for the business owner than it is for the person that goes to work. That's why they ask you, because in college, you're better than a high school graduate because you learn how to receive information faster.
Yeah.
And so why skip that? Might as well skip that part and go straight to college. That's why you in the States, I don't know if they're doing that in the UK, but like people are graduating high school in 2 years.
Oh, wow. That's quick.
And going straight to college because it's no point. They're not playing sports and it's like, it's really no point. You know, so you have to understand, like, I tell people, because everybody, the dummies on social media saying, oh, you want to start a business, you don't need to go to college. Well, if you're going to, somebody from college is going to have to run your business. And they know what you don't know. Because to be an accountant, you need to go to college. To be a lawyer, you need to go to college. Most bankers, not just tellers, I'm talking about bankers, people that's dealing with your investments, your money, they went to college.
Yeah.
So how will you feel comfortable with somebody that went to college to running your business, but you didn't go to college? You don't understand what they know. I understand, and I receive information from a different perspective because I have a higher level of education. But they just don't prepare you for that job, because that's why the job say what experience you have. Well, I just got out of school for 4 years, and like I wasn't supposed to have no experience. But you tell the kids, get an internship from your freshman year on, because you're going to need that on your resume to get a job. But as soon as if you sit there and you take your accountant major and you graduate with an accountant degree, you've already taken accounting 1, 2, 3, cost accounting, forensic, all that stuff in accounting, finances, all that stuff. You literally with a 8-week class at Jackson Hewitt or one of these H&R Blocks or something like that, you're able to run your own tax business.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But you will catch hell trying to get a job.
With what experience? Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Because you know all this accounting stuff. And then now I would send somebody to I don't know how long those, I don't know who does the taxes in the UK, but these are some of the big companies in the States, the Jackson Hewitts, the H&R Blocks. They give classes that's cheap, like $200, about 4-week class. That's to tell you like really what's going on in tax right there, the taxes right there. You can literally start your own company. I was doing taxes on the side at 23 years old, with a business degree, because I went to a Jackson Hewitt class. And but if I would have applied to get a job as an accountant for a company, I would have never got it.
Yeah. You know what, it's really a money-making scheme when we look at it, isn't it? It's a way of them, because when I was in uni, a lot of the stuff we done could have been condensed into 2 years, 10 years, but they stretch it out because they just want more money from us, which, it's the game, isn't it? We understand what it is. Like, they sort of need the money, but then at the same time, if you could make all the courses 2 years intensely, then you wouldn't then need that money because it'd be shorter.
Well, it's more so, I think the money plays a part into it, but at the same time, they wouldn't be able to handle an influx of intelligent people at that time. It is a management of situation. These people come out, and then as I told you, they accepted fallout for you have the acceptable fallout. So not the schooling or the curriculum of high school, it's the other parts, because a lot of other parts of high school is the struggle. It's the social portion of high school. Now you have the violence that's going on, not just from the people in the school or other students, but people coming into schools over here doing stuff. So these things will weed out the individuals, and they'll be, not be in the space looking for jobs or trying to be in the business. So school, that 12-year period is weeding you out. Who's going to go to prison? Who's going to be, working poor? Who's going to be middle class? Who's going to be rich? And you're being weeded out. And if you or your parents don't know the game, then your kid is going to fall victim to that. Because school is about relationships. Harvard is no better than a lot of other universities. Besides, it's going to be, that kid is going to go to school. Everybody got somebody right here that family is worth $1 million. Somebody here on this side, family worth $1 million. Somebody in front of them worth $1 million. So the relationship is different. The funding, when people are giving stuff to the school, they're not going to ever have to worry about is a bunch of rats and roaches in there because alumni are giving back to the school.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot of different things that has nothing to do with education. When you talk about business, they have case studies, real case studies, not on paper case studies. They're case studies. We're going to have somebody from Facebook here with you in the class to come and have a conversation with you, as opposed to, it's a theoretical something from somebody a professor who never did business, who just learn how to teach from a business curriculum, and that's what makes them go further. But the curriculum is the same. It's how you teach it, and what you add on to it. Imagine you cook chicken, I cook chicken, But if you put applesauce on your plate and I put rice, beans, and all the other stuff, my plate look better.
Yeah.
You
My
know what I'm
chicken
saying?
could taste
So
better.
exactly. So that's what's happening. It's all the chicken, it's all the education. But then when it's they have the better additives. I see from HBCUs, my wife and her crew, 5 women. My wife is an accountant. Her friend, she has a friend who's pretty much a doctor, but now she's the coroner. We probably call them medical examiners over there.
Yeah.
A whole county. Another one that's a dentist. Another one that's a principal of a school. Another one is a high-ranking government official. They all went to HBCU. So they perform. You can perform at a high level coming out of the same schools, but they don't have 100 millionaires they can put on the phone tomorrow, because those wasn't going to school with them. So that's the difference.
You often hear it's not what you know, it's who you know, isn't it? There are times where those connections is what gets you into the door, that gets you into those places, and gets you those opportunities.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So you went from your cleaning business and now you're an author as well, an author of 4 books, not just 1, 4. And that's quite an impressive feat, I will say so. But how did that transition go from, from doing your cleaning business into now sort of being an author?
It's funny, that's all in my first book, I Won't Starve. I Won't Starve from $8 to 6 figures. So, in 2010, my wife was working on the Capitol Hill. So, the White House is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. She's working at 600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And she lost her job out of nowhere. She was told, her and the whole company was told that the company was shutting down in 3 weeks. None of them will have a job. And so she had to figure it out. So we're living in Washington, D.C. area, which is one of the most expensive areas in the country. Here I am with my business. And we didn't have the support of family and things of that nature, as far as from a moral support space. So I sold the company and I was like, we're going to move back south. And we went to do that because, again, we were going through our recession. This is when Obama was our president.
Yeah.
And we had a great recession at that time, and it was just bad. The housing market was sucky. And so we went back south to, because it was a lot cheaper. We started having children at that time. So I had to start all over again in South Carolina, where I was a felon. And I took an $8 an hour job because I needed something. We were in a place where we were about to get put out of our apartment. And, it was just real bad. Carbon repossessed. So I took a $8 an hour job and started working, trying to figure it out. But I had a camera that I bought when my daughter was born back in 2008. And I was, take pictures of different things, or really film. But I sold the camera because I needed the money to my pastor. I was trying to sell it on eBay. He wouldn't let me. He wanted to buy it from me. He bought it, but then 2 weeks later, he gave me the camera back and said, I want you. He's like, God told me to tell you to use it. And I just went crazy with becoming a photographer at that time. So I ended up becoming a pretty good photographer. If I say so myself. If I can share, you see some pictures of me with the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, nice.
But I was taking photos at the Super Bowl 3 years ago.
Wow.
So in Miami. And if you can see behind me right there, it says top 20 under 40. That was 2017. But I was a photographer at the time. That's what it says in there, as a photographer. So I was top 20, 40 in my state.
Congratulations.
At that time. So, and that next picture next to that is a picture of Asia Wilson, who's probably one of the best women basketball players in the country. That was her Nike shoe. That was her autograph picture she gave to me. I did that.
Wow.
So I became a pretty good photographer. And I started doing work with the government with my camera, and we expanded my media company. We were doing film and photography, and we would film a lot of government contracting workshops and conferences and things of that nature. And so one thing, I started helping out the government with far as getting minority contractors in the door. And so I started working as a pseudo consultant. And I came up when I left my job, which I skipped that part. I left my job like a year after I started the $8 hour job, and came up with this mantra, I won't starve. And I would put that on, put hashtag I won't starve on all my social media. And I created what was called the Entrepreneur Workshop, Development Workshop, which now is called the I Won't Starve Experience. So it was a big conference that we did every year, well, twice a year, to bring in minority business owners, motivate them, inspire them, but more importantly, put them in around government entities so that they can actually get certified and be prepared to do business with the government. And so yeah, that's how I got to that point. And I wanted to speak. I had something to say, and I had a good friend who, it's funny, I love putting his story out there, but he was my barber in South Carolina, but he moved to Georgia, to Atlanta, and he became a barber for the movies. And now he works in the film industry cutting hair.
Wow.
He's actually up for an Oscar because he was on the hair crew that did the work for the movie Wakanda Forever. So they're up for winning an Oscar. They just won an NAACP Image Award. So now in a couple of weeks, they'll be up for the Oscars. So shout out to him.
Big up to your friend. That's sick.
Yeah. And so he started a nonprofit in Atlanta, and he invited me to speak because he knew I had a story. And I was sold after that. But for me, I said I wasn't going to wait on nobody to tell me that I was worthy enough for them to pay me to speak. So I created this workshop, and I was the headline speaker. And that's where that started. And everybody kept telling me I need to have a book. And I'm like, I already know notoriety. Everybody knew me. As you can see, I had accolades and stuff like that. I didn't have a book. And so it's titled I Won't Starve, which nobody was surprised.
Might as well stick with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I Won't Starve from $8 to six figures. And it changed my life at that point. Once I wrote a book, I found my lane. I found my voice. I was able to have this particular one. I didn't put pen to paper. My assistant, who you talk to now, Tamika, she the one who did that. So as you can see, it says, as told to Tamika Sims.
Nice.
And she said she'll never do that again for nobody. It was a hellish experience. I know I'm a lot to deal with, but it helped me tremendously because it birthed in these next three babies, which I actually did right.
Yeah.
Myself. And but yeah, so I did that, and my life changed forever, not just because of the title of author, but if I can show you, I'm right every day because of it. I write every day. I get something out off my chest every single day, whether I'm putting notes in my phone, something, I'm always writing. And so I found my outlet.
Yeah.
Yeah. You won't stop. Go ahead. You about that?
I was gonna say, how did writing help you? Because you've been through a lot. Like we've talked about a lot about your childhood and even your ups and downs. And you had quite a big contract with the cleaning contract, and then you went down again, and then you came back up again. So like, how did writing help you process everything that went on in your life?
Oh man, when you get to a certain age, man, I'm in my 40s now, my early 40s. You start getting all that emotion that they tell us as men to hold in, that's gonna start coming out.
It's gonna get
So I don't know if you got to that point yet, but literally, once we took 9 months of working on this book, and I talked about things I never talked about before. I let it all go.
Mm.
I finally let it all go. I brought in a coach, a life coach, and she was helping me with clearing up some things in my past. And I was talking and addressing things with individuals who I felt that wronged me. Because I not having a family and not having that mother figure, I was taken advantage of, I felt, by women, not like I was dating, but like pseudo mother figures.
Mm.
And so I reached out to them, and we've had those conversations, and I was able to grow from that. And it just me being willing to tell my story. I was always told to tell my story. I just wouldn't, I just nobody want to hear that. But I realized it wasn't for them, it was for me. You know, it was the more I put in these books, the easier it feels to me. It's like more and more weight is lifted off. You know, I get it out. And so writing I Won't Starve, going to working with that process, oh man, it was just like so many people called, people I've done business with. It was so funny, like certain people would hit me. I didn't know you were a felon. I didn't know you went through that. I didn't know, because you got to understand, as a photographer, my resume said I've worked with the U.S. military. I worked with Save the Children Foundation. I've worked with the NFL, the WNBA. You know what I'm saying? Like I've worked with multiple entities that I've worked with the government, the airports, everywhere. Nobody ever asked me about my background. Save the Children Foundation asked, but they asked about, you know, because they want to make sure you're not dealing with kids. You never kids. But outside of that, and I work with Amtrak, the train company. I mean, like if we go down online, I work with major law firms, you know, like all type of companies. They not one time asked me about my background. And so it was like, wow, you know, and I would keep it to myself because I didn't want nobody to ask me about my background. So this was a relief. And then, you know, a couple years later, to be pardoned for all of my crimes that I did 20 years prior, you know, that was a big deal, you know, but it was me accepting me for who I am, and you know, and not letting my past keep me bottled up and back there in that space, and allow me to go forward and be exactly who I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. You can't let your past define you, can you? Like, and I think everything that you were saying, in terms of like growing, like how writing helped you process your emotion and that people wanted to hear your story. I think we find that like telling your story sort of then helps people just more connect with you, isn't it? And you're saying that it was like everyone said, write your story, and you're thinking, oh, that's for everyone else, but that how much it actually helped you out. What were I interrupted you when you were going to show me all your other 3 books that you've written. What were the...
You're fine. You want to start key principles of entrepreneur development. So I was teaching this when I put this first book out. I would go around and do training because this stuff is on YouTube. I literally put this on YouTube 2014, 2015. It probably got 20 views. But when the pandemic happened, you know, I made some tweaks, and I narrowed it down to focus on 3 different generations, which was Gen Z, millennials, and baby boomers. But the crux of the content of this book I had talked about on a YouTube series I did called Hustle While You Work, and I sold over 5,000 copies of this book.
Wow. Congratulations.
And independently, and I never, thank you, and I couldn't get nobody to look at the YouTube videos. I was giving it away for free, but I couldn't go and teach it nowhere because we were in the house and nobody was doing anything. So having a book got me all over the country because people wanted me to go and do presentations and things like that. I was doing them online, and then once the world kind of opened back up, I started traveling again. And that's how I got to the West Coast of South Carolina. I mean, of America, because of that book, putting that book out, and people seeing that I do training on entrepreneurship, things of that nature. So that was it's my second baby. So that was cool. It worked out tremendously.
Yeah. What were, in terms of when you do courses, when you are talking to people, and I'm sure you're inspiring them as well, like what are maybe some of the most surprising things that you come across?
Well, you know, the biggest surprising thing I come across is that, if you know anything about the state, South Carolina is not one of the most desirable places to live when it comes to the states, because it's not like California or New York or Chicago, stuff like that. But oh man, how much the stuff I learned in South Carolina, a lot of people don't know. I'm in Las Vegas. You know, this is a big town. Everybody knows about Las Vegas all over the world, but they don't know the stuff that I know in South Carolina. So, you know, I was teaching in Long Beach, California. You know, it's LA County. They didn't know. Their eyes was wide open, like, wow, I didn't know this, you know. So I tell people that I work with and I've been trained under, I tell them all the time, I say, you guys don't owe me anything because I was trained very, very well on how to be a presenter. I was trained on how to, which I'm certified trainer, certified facilitator, certified business coach. But I learned all that stuff in little old South Carolina. And I was well prepared for the rest of the big bad world. So that's one of the biggest things that come to me every day.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That's very interesting. And I'm gonna ask you just two more questions. And I forgot what I was going to say literally just in seconds ago. What you said you worked with quite a lot of clients. You worked at Nike, NFL, WNBA. What are some of your favorite clients that you have worked with?
Oh man, so again, when I got the Nike opportunity, it was through Asia Wilson, who is the WNBA MVP actually this past year and
Oh,
champion.
damn.
She's from South Carolina, born and raised, and went to college with her brother. Her mother's like super cool. She's like everybody's auntie, and her dad is like a phenomenal businessman. So they gave me an opportunity to work with her when she got out. As soon as she got out of high school, and she was an All-American, and I started working with her, and they always let me work with her all the way through college. And so just to know that I was thought about because according to her mom, she had an opportunity to do a shoot with Mountain Dew, and she did, and she couldn't get any of the photos. She was upset about it. So she said, the next time I'm gonna use my own. And they could have used anybody. Her daughter's a millionaire, daughter's doing things. They could use anybody, but they came home to South Carolina and called little old me and gave me the opportunity to change my life like that. And so I appreciate that one. I worked with Amtrak. That was an amazing project for me because it was a forensic project. It was a train crash. And I had the opportunity to shoot that project for about 17 different cases for the law firms in the state of South. So that was a transformational job for me. Those are ones I think. Oh, the Super Bowl, of course. Like Super Bowl with I'm a 49ers fan, and I got that stuff with the Chiefs too, but they ain't nobody. I don't put them up there. They beat my team. I probably would have put them up there if they beat my team, but that was a tremendous experience to, get rolled out the red carpet. I met all the people on ESPN that I saw since I was younger, and I'm right there with them, being able to shake hands. I got pictures with a lot of the ESPN people from over here. So that was just a tremendous opportunity for me. So camera put me in a lot of rooms that I never thought I would be in, even though I don't really shoot like that no more. Because of the pandemic, that was tremendous.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think what we've been sort of talking about and what has definitely come up through this conversation, as you said at the beginning, like you had a hustle, you had a drive, but you were also good with people. And I think, when we think of when we think of kids that are dealing, or even when you think of drug dealers, criminal empires, like to do that, you've got to be really smart. Like the people that are running those things ain't stupid. Like if they applied those skills to business, they would be flying because there's a lot which is sort of related with this. And I think from your upbringing, which maybe led you to be more hungry, as you're saying, I won't starve, like that drive, that hunger to be better, to do better, and your people skills, I think, is a testament to when you're saying talking about working with the WNBA star, that the relationship you had with her brother, with her dad, with the mom, they were like, yeah, let's get him because we know he's good. So yeah, quite a huge testament to your character.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. The transformation is hard for a lot of people to do, and I'm glad you brought that up. It's because it's different language barrier. It's a language barrier when you're coming from the street to going into legit business. And so everybody from the outside looking in saying, wow, if they was able to build a $500 million street organization, they should be able to do that in business. Well, no, business takes time. People usually can do that in a matter of a year or two. You don't build $500 million in regular, in the regular world fast,
Yeah.
and these people are very cutthroat. I mean, sometimes you do business deals with people and you would rather be in the street. You would rather be in the street because they're a whole lot worse people that's in corporate America than the drug dealer. So we have to put that out there. And when that drug dealer kind of cross over and they dealing with these people, they don't speak the same language. So it's about putting yourself in a situation where you can be educated on how to speak the same language. And so you can transfer those skills, because a lot of times it's the language barrier. Like I would be able to go to any country and live the same way I live if I could speak the language. So it's the same situation. A lot of people don't go to these places because they don't speak the language. So the drug dealers don't speak the language of corporate America. So you have to learn that. Most drug dealers not leaving the drugs to go to college to learn the corporate American language. So that's why it's not happening. That's why it's always saying, well, if you really have a real heart and you just in it for the money, partner with a young lady, or if you're the female doing it nowadays, partner with a young man who knows that world and allow them to usher you out of that world. Allow them to inspire you to get out of that world. But drug dealers don't know about credit. You know what I'm saying? They don't know. They don't. I mean, when I was
right.
It was a crime for us to get cars with car payments. Like, we out here making money. Whatever car you got was a status of how much money you had. So it wasn't how much money you thought you had. It was, if you had a car, it was $10,000 car. That was because you had $10,000 put up and you bought that car. We say, okay, put $10,000 on the car and pay payments. I think that's something that's acceptable today, but that wasn't acceptable where I came from. That was a status. If you had a certain car, they knew what level you were on at that time. So I hadn't the slightest idea about credit. And the sad part about it is the drug dealers would tell you how to make money selling drugs, but the people in the real world won't tell you how to make money. They keep it from you. I never met a drug dealer who wouldn't tell me how to make money with drugs. You know what I mean? They will always say, oh, well, man, you got to do it this way, do it that way, you do this, and then you'll be okay. In this world, oh my God, you go to these people, man, how I do what you do? Nah. It's going to be a tax attached to it, or they're going to be cryptic, or they're just going to tell you no.
Yeah, I think that's quite an interesting thought as well. And maybe something for the future in terms of how do we empower children that are involved in crime to be able to move across, because, I don't know, maybe I'm pessimistic, which I'm quite an optimistic guy, but I feel like if they were to do that, we would see a lot of crime being decreased. We would see quite a lot of positive things, but the rich and the powerful don't want to give up their power. So why would they empower those that know that if they come into the industry, they could do really well?
We can't worry about the rich and the powerful. We spend too much time worrying about the rich and the powerful. Like, they're not worried about us as much as we think they're worried about us. They're not worried about us until we get to be a point where we can affect them. Our little stuff is not affecting them. So when you get a book like First Morning Motivation, my third book, this is, again, consistent encouragement through a crisis. How do you stay motivated no matter what? How are you encouraged no matter what situation, right? So you guys going through a bad situation, fine. How do you stay motivated in that situation? But once you get past that and you go through those steps, you learn. I talked about business. You got to have the right people around you. That's what Business Corner is. How do you what's really needed to survive the entrepreneurial fight? You got to have people around you. Those kids don't have help. They're telling these kids to figure it out on their own, and they're doing it with what they had. They're doing it with the information that they had. If a kid can get up in the morning, every morning at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and 8 o'clock in the morning, like I did, and be on the corner on time, that means I could be at a job at that time. You understand? So I have that skill, right? If you see me making a little bit of money, now I got a car, that means I have staying power. That means I'm able to sit here, put a plan together, and actually do it. So you see that. It's your job to see those, not just the negative. Now you see those positive things within this child. And then this is the offer, not the critique, not the judgment, the offer. if I can offer you a way to make money legitimately, would you do it? If they say no, leave them right there. I'm willing to bet that a good portion of them would say yes. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
I get you.
Don't scam them. Don't take advantage of them. Don't judge them. Look, there's no way you put the food in front of them and they're not going to eat. But you won't put the food in front of them. You come there with your judgment. They can't eat judgment. You come there with your critique. They can't eat critique. You got to put, if you want them hungry wolves that's on them corners and that's out there hustling, you got to give them some food. So what is the food? Knowledge, real knowledge. Knowledge that can be applicable today because they about to get this money today. So you're saying, hey, young brother, I know what you're doing. Let's try to do this for right now. And it's not going to take you away from this, just like it's not going to take you away from a job, because that's your job. That's his job. If he or she are paying their bills that way or feeding their family, that's their job. Don't take them away from that immediately. But let me show you this. They come, man, that was cool, man. I made $250 yesterday. I was over there talking to dude, and we worked on this, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I probably made $2,000 yesterday, but I still made $250 and wasn't wasting my time. You know what? If it's slow out here, I'm going to go out there.
Yeah.
What happens is when you start injecting that goodness into them, they don't forget it. Let me tell you what's going to happen to that young drug dealer. They're going to lose a package. They're going to get a bad package, or they're going to get arrested. So which means those are the times when they're going to say, you know what? I lost all that money, but I got some money I can make over here with this brother. So if you got that construction company and you're looking for some day workers, hey, yo, man, I know you're making your money, but, yo, you can, and give them some game. Come over here, work this construction so you can put this on your tax. You can file taxes, and the man won't say nothing to you. Yeah, you know what? You're right. Man, just come 2 days a week. You'll be all right. Just come 2 days a week. I'll pay you $25 an hour. That's what you're paying anyway. But I want him. You know why? Because he's going to show up. He's already showing up. He's standing outside in the rain. He ain't leaving when it gets cold. He's standing out there getting his money when it's cold.
Yeah.
They are heavy.
Definitely. And as you're saying, you can't eat judgment. You can't eat critique. Like, come to the young person and offer them, sure, they are getting maybe money, they get more money from somewhere else. But as you're saying, if you can make money legitimately, I also agree with you. I think a lot of kids would say, yeah, no, let me do that. Because there isn't that risk of I'm going to get arrested. There isn't that risk of I could get shot at on the corner or something could happen to me or my boys.
How many times you heard of anybody, this is probably the first time you heard anybody give you that example and tell you that this is what they should do to these young kids? Like, nobody never said that, and nobody talks about that. I'm telling them, like, I've never been on the corner, somebody come offer me a job. And the kids, they're not going on the corner. Them kids are not going to rob you if you walk up there and say, hey, how y'all doing, young brothers? I want to offer y'all, we got a construction contract up here. They're looking for workers. Are you guys interested in making some money? They're not gonna be like, oh nah, but come on, give me your wallet. They're not gonna do that. They're not animals. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna be like, yes or no. But I bet you one of them would say yeah. Even if they don't say it in front of everybody else, they say, where is that? Then later on, you might see him trickling in. You said that's because what I know about drug dealers, everybody on the corner, just because they're selling drugs, they making money. So everybody's not making money. You know what I'm saying? It's just, that's the allure. That's a lie. So it could be 10 people out there doing it. One of them probably making money, maybe 2, if it's a good situation. But that money that they can make, that $25 an hour working 8-10 hours, they'll be like, I take that. I get paid every week. All right, cool. I take that. And before you know it, you done lost 3 of them, 4 of them guys on that corner because they're working. But they're worried about their background. They're not stealing. They're not stealing metal. They're not stealing tools. They don't even know what to do with it. Everything they're gonna learn how to do with it, you're gonna teach them. Yeah. And that's what you do. You teach day laborers. You teach laborers. You bring them in there. They're cleaning up. You know what I'm saying? They don't know how to do stuff, but the longer they stay, the longer they learn how to do stuff. But they're not going to the corner to take the kids off the corner. It's the easiest way to take them off the corner. And we can do that. We people that's in our level have construction companies. They're going through Indeed and trying to hire them. and seeing if they got a college degree to go ahead and clean up after construction.
Yeah, and you're empowering people that need it. You're empowering kids that need it, and you're able to go and give them a better life. Hopefully, you get them onto a better life and a better track as well. And I've loved everything we've talked about. And I'm just going to ask you a final question I ask all my guests. And I think it works perfectly because we've just been talking to and giving a message for people like us, for people that are in the industry, that in industries and that have power. But say if there's a young person listening to this conversation, what do you think something that we've talked about or something that you know can help them with an understanding of themselves?
That they're not alone. That other people actually know what they're dealing with. People listen to podcasts every day, and not too many people are hearing, especially young kids, somebody speaking to exactly what they're dealing with. It's always a judgment. It's always a critique, and yes, they're doing some dumb stuff. I mean, like, for real, it's no need to lie about it. At the same time, let's talk solution-based. And here are solutions. It's the truth that is a language barrier between kids on the corner and people in corporate America. It's a language barrier between the kids on the corner and the people in the church. It's and if we're not willing to bridge that gap, we're going to keep losing. And then when you start to think about the jobs, oh my God, we got to stop. They're doing it now over here in the States. They're really trying to focus on giving felons jobs, because we got to a point where everybody needs employees. Mm-hmm. And so now you're not really worried about that. Now, in more of the major states, they're a little bit more lenient, but still some of those other states were trying to hold on to that. But no, man, these are a huge amount of citizens that could be working. And you're saying because they had a nonviolent offense, they can't get a job. Like they're going to go back to doing the same thing they wasn't doing. And they already know this, but it's all about solution. And one of the biggest things is understanding that I want the kids to understand is that they can do it at the level that they are. I said that in this book. That's one of my key principles, to start where you are. Don't worry about, I got to have $10,000, $100,000, wherever you are is good enough. I just moved to Vegas a little over a year ago. I already adopted a school. I'm not from here, but I already adopted the school. So that's one school that's going to get lunch every month for me. We're going to come there. We're going to send supplies. We're going to be there, support. That's one. Now, before it's all said and done, it's going to be way more than that. But again, I'm not waiting on, if I had 15 other people to help me, I can get the whole district. Forget that. I'm going to start with one. And then we're going to work. I'm always going to do what I can do. I'm never waiting on nobody else, and they shouldn't wait on nobody else. Do what you can do, and what you can do is more than enough. I promise you, because instead of you sitting there doing nothing, doing something is always more than enough.
Yeah. No, bro. Thank you, J Haleem, for coming onto the podcast. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think this is a long episode, but there's always great nuggets in long conversations. So thank you for joining me. And hopefully I'll get to see you soon. Hopefully I get to meet you. I haven't met any of my guests, so I'd love to at some point. So yeah.
And let's do it. Let's set up something out where you are. You got something going on, let me know. Let's make it happen.
We'll do.
Let's do it. Let's create the relationship. I want to get you these books so that you can spread them out to your friends. Let people see what you got going on. Like I said, this is my latest one, Business Corner, 2 months old right now. This is my latest baby, and I say my best work. On what's really needed to survive the entrepreneurial fight. This is for any entrepreneur, no matter what level you're on. Because I start from the beginning all the way to selling your business. So we cover when it's time to hire employees. We cover, reinvesting in your company, relocating to another place. But all of it's based on who and what you need to have in your corner during your business journey.
Nah, bless. Is there anything else you'd like to tell my audience? Anything else you'd like to plug as well while we're here?
Stay connected, man. Stay connected with this brother right here and with me. I Won't Starve. You can look up hashtag I Won't Starve. You'll see everything about me. But IWon'tStarve.com is one of my websites, and JHaleem.com. But go to I see about the I Won't Starve movement. This is a motivational lifestyle brand. Go on there. You see the books. You see the merchandise, just like stuff like what I got on. And just see what we're doing, see what we're doing in the community. Hear me speak all the time. Go to Starve Talk. I got my own podcast, Starve Talk Podcast. Starve stands for Stand Tall and Reclaim Victory Every Day. So we are literally, bringing people out of that, and we're doing it through other people's messages. The Bible says we overcome by our testimony. So not just my testimony, but your testimony. So I'm willing to talk about what I got going on. I want to hear you. And you might have a better perspective, but as long as we all are trying to help individuals with our testimony.
Nah, brilliant. And yeah, I'm going to put all of that into the show notes as well. So no one's got no excuses not to find you. So yeah, thank you, J Haleem, for coming onto the podcast, and we'll talk soon.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you very much for listening. I don't know what I'm still singing. Hey! Anyway, yeah, thank you very much for listening to this episode, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking to J Haleem, and I think there are loads of good nuggets of information everyone can get out of this. If you want to find J Haleem on any platforms or social medias, everything is going to be in the notes of this video. And if you want to get into contact with me, y'all already should know by now. At Black and Raww at everything. Speak at blackandraww.co.uk. Check out my website. There's always extra resources and information. I love to put YouTube videos up on there that are, stuff that we've talked about. So it really helps gain more of an understanding, and then you can do some little background research on your own. So, got so much pumped up energy. So, thank you very much for listening to this episode, and we will talk soon.